thank you all for being here today again. And we have Shakina again, being quite familiar with our speaker, Dr. West. Dr. West, again, thank you also for joining us, but Shakina is going to help us with our introduction. Thank you, Shakina.
Hi, thank you. There are not enough words to describe how grateful I am that Dr. West could join us today. I've known Dr. West for a very long time now. As you guys know, I was introduced to the social work field through Sabrina, another fantastic Rotary member at Triton College. It was at Triton College that I met Dr. West because she was helping with the transition program from Triton to Governor State. I didn't know whether or not I wanted to go to Governor State until I walked into this woman's office and I was met with this presence of just calmness, peaceness, amazingness. And I was like, I'm going to follow her wherever she leads me. And I did. I followed her to Governor State and she expanded my knowledge of what I was capable of as a woman in social work, and as a social worker. And those are three very different categories for me. And I am beyond grateful for her leadership, her pure amazingness. Dr. West is currently a university lecturer at Governor State University, like I mentioned, which is 30 miles south of Chicago. She earned her Bachelor's of Arts in History from Paine College in Augusta, Georgia. Then went on to join the Peace Corps, serving as a public health volunteer. Now, the stories that we have heard about her time to Peace Corps are some of the most amazing stories. I wish we had hours upon hours for her to talk about her work. But that work in the Peace Corps is what led her into the work of public health and social work. She went on to get a dual master's degree in social work and public health with an emphasis on maternal and child health at Tulane University in New Orleans, which is an amazing university. Dr. West is not only a certified yoga instructor, a master gardener. You guys should see the pictures that she posts on Facebook of the stuff that comes out of her garden. I'm going to get over there and nitpick some of those things pretty soon as the CDC allows me to. She's a certified Food for Life instructor and is very passionate about the importance of living an intentional, healthy lifestyle. I could go on and on and on, but I want you guys to hear it from her. And without further ado, Dr. West, it's on you, my girl.
And of course, she's making me cry, right? So I can cry easy. So, and you did it. I want to thank Clerk Yarbrough for leading and being a part of this great group. I want to thank Dr. Lipka. I want to thank Jamaica for being here. Armanda, happy birthday on this amazing day. And Miss Bonnie, thank you for your prayer. It meant a lot, and it put a space. It's amazing that we can be virtual and still feel a sense of community. And I want to thank you for setting that intention for the space. It means a lot. I want to acknowledge Byron Still, if he's in amongst the 35 people who are with us. Byron is my childhood friend. And most of all, Shakina, it's an honor to be acknowledged just in this space. And I didn't plan on crying, didn't know I would so easily. But I'm crying because there are tears of joy to see where you are from the moment we met at Triton. And it's because of you. I've spent 13 years at Governor State University training social workers. It is because of people like you. And it means a lot. I didn't understand the invitation because I'm jumping around like a bunny rabbit and moving and moving and moving. But when you invited me, I didn't understand. Now I understand. understand fully, just in the few minutes of sitting amongst people and preparing for this meeting today, in which I didn't even have a title. Armanda said, do you have a PowerPoint to share? And I said, no, I do PowerPoints every day. I'm glad I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm so glad I don't have a PowerPoint today. Let's say if I had a title, it would be, how did I get to service? How did I start serving? How did I make service a part of my life? In addition to all of what Shakina said about my professional background, I want to say first and foremost, right about now, currently in my life, I am the sole mother of a 4-year-old princess warrior. I call myself a sole mother instead of a foster mother. And it is my job to make sure that she is as much of a warrior as Shakina is, because that's what I see her as, a queen warrior now versus a princess warrior. And that's another part of our service, right? So I grew up, let's start, how did this, I grew up, I was born, I'm the youngest of 5. I like to tell this story, and I share this story. There's no question that's off limits, but I share the story of how I was conceived. I'm the youngest of 5, and my sister that's next to me, her birthday is tomorrow, Amanda, and she's 5 years older. My mother was told after her 4th child that she should not have any more children and that her tubes should be tied because it's a hazard to her health. And 5 years later, with tubes tied, I was born. I looked at that as I was meant to be here, and I was determined to be here. I grew up in North Lawndale, not too far from Byron still, and the house, I lived in 2 houses and in the same neighborhood for the first 18 years of my life. I noticed there was an article in the Chicago Tribune that said that North Lawndale was a part of the permanent underclass, that if you grew up in North Lawndale, you grew up in a black hole that you could never come out of, which of course we know is not true. Yet, that's what was written about North Lawndale. I've always had a different story. It was a community, definitely a community that had its challenges, yet for me, it was a community that represented the second migration of African Americans from the South to the North, including my parents from Mississippi and from Georgia. And that said, we had Southern ways and traditions that we were raised, and we maintain even today. And it's an honor and privilege to still be in a community and amongst people I've known since I was in 1st grade, since conception. In fact, I'm still in touch with my 6th grade teacher. There's not a move I don't make in which I don't call Miss Kent. She lives in Oak Park, actually. And I still call her. My mother is a retired domestic. She's 88 years old. My father was a laborer, and he was also a vice lord. He was in a gang. He died when I was a senior in high school from cancer of the esophagus. He was a heavy drinker and a heavy smoker, and he was a deeply troubled man, and he was my daddy, and I love him. And not knowing how we were going to make it throughout the lifetime, and having memories of our grocery store burning down on Hamlin during the riots in 1968. We made it because we were a community. We made it because there were people who stood in the gap. We made it. I made it as a 1st generation college student. I got to tell you, I spent many years with survivor's guilt, asking and wondering, why did God spare me? Why did he give me the chance and the opportunity to have so many incredible blessings? And I know the answer is always to serve and to be a part of making this world a better place. Ms. Kent was always the other mother in our lives, and not just my life, this teacher I'm telling you about, but for many other young people. There was also Mr. Ed, who owned Del Car Drug Store, which was one of the only stores that did not burn down during the riots. He gave me my first job at 14 years old. I was in customer service. Didn't know what it was preparing me for. He was also the person who fired me for the first time as well. And he told me I became a doctor because he fired me. He taught me disciplines and a lesson, and I laughed. He's no longer with us, but his son still owns that drugstore today. And that drugstore is well over probably 60 years old now. From grammar school years, I went to high school. I graduated from Westinghouse High School, where I majored in cosmetology. I did not know that I was going to college at all. Had no idea. I was slated to be a cosmetologist. My side hustle was doing hair. And I heard other people going to college. And I made the decision that I too would go. And I eventually ended up in Olive Harvey College. And I stayed there for a moment. I went to Loyola for a semester, and I did not know how to live and work with white people, to be honest, because I had only seen like 3 white people in my lifetime. And I got my first F in religion. I always tell that story because it's that story of shame on you in the Black community that you could get an F in religion, which was, it was my wake-up sign, though. It was my wake-up reality that I needed help and I needed to figure something out. And I decided, I asked my mother, I begged her, I said, Mama, please let me go away. And she said, well, I don't have any money to send you away. I don't know where to send you. I was like, well, let me go to Georgia. And that's where she's from. I said, let me stay with Auntie and go to Georgia. And I said, I'll stay on campus. And she said, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't know, Mama. I'll figure out. My mother gave me a train ticket, actually a bus ticket, a Greyhound bus ticket, and $100. And I went to Paine College. And it was at Paine College, a historical Black college, I could figure out life. They gave me an opportunity. I found myself around other people. I pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha, Sorority Incorporated, and I pledged it on a dare. I like to tell the story because I think sometimes we just don't tell the honest truth about things. But I pledged it on a dare. I pledged AKA on a dare that they would not accept young girls my complexion because of I didn't pass the brown paper bag test. And I wanted to dispel that myth and say that's not true. I met some of the most incredible people at Paine College, including my sorority sisters, and they taught me how to study. I didn't know how to study, and that's where I learned to study. But I also learned about service. It shaped me deeply. One day in my history class, a gentleman came from the United Nations, and he talked about working all over the world and service all over the world. And I said, well, how do I do that? How do I learn to serve and do things? And how do I go to Africa? And he said, well, why don't you apply to the Peace Corps? So I applied. It took a while. It wasn't that instant. But I also met people like Congress Mickey Leland, who died in Ethiopia. His plane crashed while he was dropping food out of the plane during the famine. It was that his death that inspired me because he told me that he would help me in whatever I needed in order to serve. I met Ambassador Andrew Young. Most of all, I met a 70-year-old woman who later I found out was President Jimmy Carter's mother, who joined Peace Corps at 70, and she served. I joined after I was able to get my blood up. I graduated in I forgot when I graduated. I'm saying in 1988, and I joined the Peace Corps. I went to Liberia, West Africa, and I had the opportunity to live with the president's sister. It was very short-lived. It was about 4 months, and I was evacuated during the war in Liberia. I later went to Sierra Leone, where I lived in the village with no running water, electricity, and a thatch roof hut and an outhouse. And I stayed there for almost 2 years, where I served doing maternal and child health. And that's where I fell in love with social work and public health. And I came home, as Shakina said, and I got my double master's. And then I returned to Chicago. I was a therapist for about 3 years, and I started working in public health, where I was assistant health officer for Cook County Department of Public Health, and we did health planning for 2.4 million people. 5 years later, I got my PhD from the University of Chicago, and my research is in the relationship with mothers who were incarcerated and grandmothers who took care of their children. The work I've done has prepared me to train future social workers at Governors State University for the last 13 years, who are serving in various spaces such as hospitals and public health departments and so on. I also continue the service work that we do, and I take students, and Shakina actually went to Nicaragua with us, where we build hygiene units in Panama, Nicaragua, and in Ghana. We have taken over 6 groups now overseas to do the work. And it's a focus of you focus globally. And with Governor State, the unique part about Governor State is that we have a large rural population of students. We have a large suburban population and a large urban population. And when our students go overseas, our students don't look like other students in service learning abroad or projects like that, because most of our students are first generation students as well, and they often don't get the opportunity to travel abroad as a student. We have been able to create that by starting a global service learning, global service scholars program. And when our students go over, we represent the United States and we look like the United States. Our students are white, Asian, African American, Latinx, and they are also Muslim, Christian, and other faith, from other faith walks. They're also gay, straight, they're male and they're female. We represent the United States, and we are a family. Most student organizations that are serving from the United States are predominantly white. And we work with them, and they want to work with us, and we meet with them in the evening to talk about diversity. We're going to continue to do that work once COVID clears up. What we're doing now, in addition to what I'm doing now, in addition to teaching classes, we started, along with Dr. Lori Crowder, we started what's called a community practice learning lab, where we can train social workers to do macro level practice in response to COVID. And particularly, we're working in the Southland, but definitely are willing to expand, where our students are working with nonprofit organizations in the Southland area to address COVID needs and resources that many community people need right now, as well as education inequity amongst our K through 12. And how do we support parents in the midst of COVID and online learning? I'm going to, there's not much more other than I'm a consultant. I do gang violence work. I look at organizational wellness and working with employees and how do we take care of, how do administrators take care of employees to do the best work they can possibly do. And that's where I am. So I'll stop there and we can have a dialogue about public health, about COVID, whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. We have a Mr. Steele, I think.
Byron Steele, your neighbor Byron Stewart has a comment, I think. Let's see here.
And he made a comment and he has a, so he's unmuted, so he can speak now if he wants.
Well, hey, Dr. Woods, how you doing?
Dr. West, really?
Dr. West, I'm Dr. West, I'm so sorry.
Byron.
Phyllis has had this most vibrant smile all of her life. Look at that smile right there. I'm sure that's what opened up all the doors for her. But, I'd just like to say, Phyllis, I'm so proud of you and the work that you've done. Phyllis is still connected to the community. Every time I go to anything on the West Side, you can look forward to Phyllis being there. So in her aspirations and as many great things that she's done, she's still connected to the community. And I've always applauded that because the community needs you. And our needs on the West Side are so great. But I just want to, I don't necessarily have a comment. I just want to say thank you, Phyllis, for what you do. I'm so proud of you, and I'm proud to call you my friend.
Okay, thank you. That's our Deputy Chief of Vitals, and he's vital. Next up, we have our Deputy Clerk of Taxes and Real Estate. Carolyn, can you unmute Carolyn?
I can, but right now we have Janine Bass. She's up and she's unmuted, so
Okay.
while I get Carolyn together, maybe Janine can go ahead.
Hi, Dr. West. How are you?
Hi.
Hi, I love you so much. I'm one of your former favorite students.
I know you, Janine.
Mel, how are you today?
I'm great.
Great.
I'm even better now. I just don't want GSU folks making me cry.
I just wanted to thank you for revealing your story to us today. It was amazing where you come from and where you are today. And I was excited when I saw that you were one of the speakers for this month. I was telling my staff that I was one of your former students and how amazing you are. So thank you so much for everything. And also, I have one question. So how would one get involved in your mission trips that you take?
Well, different ways.
Okay.
Definitely, as an alum, you are eligible to attend with us.
Okay, awesome.
We also have something that we've created as community partners.
Okay.
We invite community partners. Now, the service work that we do, the service abroad work that we do, I must tell you, and even at 56, I'll tell you that it's physical.
Okay.
So we prepare our students to get physically ready for digging.
Absolutely.
Right.
Great. Okay.
And people are welcome though. We were supposed to be in Ghana in May. We were supposed to be back in Panama in January. So more than likely, if we can open up, we're going to be in Ghana in January. We're going to return to Ghana, and you are more than welcome. We'll post it and share, and we love alums to join us. And we also welcome community partners, because what it is a community partner. As a community partner, we're looking for people who can pour into our students and into the community in which we're serving. A lot of the students, once they've attended once they've gone with us, they return back on their own and continue to work with these communities.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Miss you.
Miss you too.
Okay, I guess next up we have Carolyn Wilhite.
Oh, Dr. West, it's a pleasure as I listen to you, and when you first started out giving your journey, I can truly say you are living the truth of service to all mankind, Soror. So it's an honor. But my question to you is this: as I was listening when you first started, I just sensed resiliency. So can you describe what keeps that heart of resiliency that you have burning?
Yes, and Sora, honestly, before I answer that, and okay, everybody, if you know me, between Byron, Shakina, and Janine, they know that I'm a crier. So anyway, if I start crying, that's okay. I would like to first and foremost say that I have to, and especially if there are just anybody in an organization, period, right? It doesn't matter. And I talk about Alpha Kappa Alpha because had it not been for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, I would not have gone overseas. Because if you remember back in the 80s, I pledged fall 1985. The focus.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And the focus was serving a global perspective. That was the theme, to serve with a global perspective. And we had chapters in Liberia. And I said, well, I want to do that. And of course, this gentleman, the stranger, said, well, go ahead. The response from my family was, what is wrong with you? Poor Black folks don't go overseas to serve. And of course, when you tell me not to do something, I'm going to do it. And it changed my life. I think a part of that foundation is I told you about the village, but being 23 years old, living in the village, helped shape me as a woman. And it shaped my comfort. And I know that the Black women on this call can feel this and resonate with this. It shaped me as a woman, especially as a woman with my skin, to be very comfortable, to have a clarity of what it means to be a woman, and not to ever feel inadequate or short or let any of the myths and stereotypes ever pour into me. They couldn't, because I was raised in so many different villages, right? North Lawndale, 16th Street was a village. And then Paine College, the small college, was a village. And then to go and live in a village, I had so many villages that poured into me. My resiliency is not mine. My resiliency is truly God, and it's truly the ancestors and all the people who poured into me. I just live it out.
Excellent.
I just live it out.
Excellent, excellent.
Well said. Now, I'm looking at your bio, and I don't see anything here about AKA. So why is it that is not here? Anyway, Soror, I'm glad to know that you are one. And we have a question from Robin Staggers.
Who's talking, though? Who's speaking? Because
Karen Yarbrough.
Oh, see, I didn't know. Why isn't it on there? You know,
I know, it's being added right now.
You know what?
You know, we are global.
Bio that's not on my bio.
Okay, but I'm sure it'll be there after today.
I don't know.
Okay, it's okay. It's okay. Robin Staggers.
Okay, so Robin is unmuted because she just put a comment, but
Okay, I see Tanae's hand is held up.
Tanae is. So how about if I?
Yeah, go ahead and let Tanae speak, and then we'll go to Robin.
Sure.
Dr. West, good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with our organization. From just listening to everyone calling in, individuals that you've known for the majority of your life, it just appears to be that you are a breath of fresh air. And I was speaking with Shakina. She's been speaking with me over the last couple of weeks, and she's been telling me how amazing of a professor that you are, of a teacher that you are, but more importantly, how amazing of a woman that you are. And she was absolutely correct. I want to thank you for your contribution to our culture, for your contribution to our people, for your contribution to the African diaspora, more importantly, for your contribution to the remarkable West Side of Chicago, as I'm a West Side native from the Lawndale community, born and raised on Van Buren and Pulaski Road. And I do want to say that I believe there is a connection with Rotary and Governor State, if I'm not mistaken. I believe past district governor Pedro Savalas, who was the first Hispanic governor of our district, I believe he was a board member at the institution, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, please forgive me. But thank you so very much for taking the time to be with us, and I look forward to following your work. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments. What high school did you go to?
Providence St. Mel.
Of course. I used to party in that basement.
And so did I.
We do have, there is an affiliation or a connection, because I know that the international office at Governor State University, in which I do a lot of partner with to plan the trips, Amy has been attending some of the Rotary meetings. And we've been talking and exploring how can we connect and get involved more with Rotary. And we of course, COVID came, but it's still an open discussion on how this work that we do, especially around service learning, locally and abroad, how do we do that and connect with and partner with organizations, especially like Rotary? And I'm inspired by everything I've read.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready for Robin?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. It's such a it's so encouraging hearing from so many phenomenal women, and you are one of those phenomenal women, sharing your stories, letting us know that anything's possible, and instilling in us that we still have to trust God for the things that we can't see and for those things that seem impossible. So for my question is, for those who are seeking a life or career change and have a passion for service, what are the age requirements for the Peace Corps, the minimum age to join, and the maximum age that you can serve? And can you select a region where you want to serve?
Interesting that you even talked about that, because probably what I haven't said is I used to be a Peace Corps recruiter after I left.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Yes, and first and foremost, we need to get more people involved. Clearly, Peace Corps is still out there, and two of my former students who attended service learning abroad trips were inspired to join Peace Corps. And there is not an age, you have to be at least 18. It's recommended, and I think you do need at least a degree or some kind of trade that is needed, right? The service that is needed.
Okay.
A skill set that's needed. You can now. Back in the day when I joined Peace Corps, I didn't have a choice. I could tell them the region, but it wasn't a guarantee that I would get what I wanted. Now it's a little different. You can select, and there's not an age limit. Like I told you, Jimmy Carter's mother joined at 70 years old, and I plan to join after I retire.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
I'm going to keep working out because I plan to join.
There you go, Robin.
Yeah, I'm encouraged.
The one thing you need to know about Peace Corps that a lot of people don't know, and so somebody would say, how did someone, you heard my story, so how does someone who fits in the low income bracket gets to do something like Peace Corps? Well, Peace Corps provides you with a stipend. They provide you with travel to get there and back. And then they also put something towards your college education, say if you want to further your education, or repay some of your loans. So
Oh, that's
there's
awesome.
a lot of benefits to Peace Corps that many communities don't know that could allow and afford those of us who are financially challenged to still have that opportunity.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure. Thank you.
But you still got to work at Cook County.
I'm looking
Driving.
after.
You got to work at the clerk's office, though. Dr. West, I don't see any other questions, but please keep them coming. I wanted to ask you about your work. Yeah.
Clerk Yarbrough? Yeah, there are a couple more. We have Miss Karen Thompson, and we also have Shakina would like to ask a question or make a comment as well.
Okay, well, let me say this, Dr. West, I will want to hear from you on the work that you're doing with Healing Hurt People. I'd like to know more about that organization. So go right ahead.
I can. Do you want me to talk about that now?
No, she said we had some other. See, I can't see these people. They're I can't see them. So she's seeing something I can't see. So go ahead with the ones that you have, Amanda.
Okay. Karen Thompson, you're unmuted. Go ahead. Karen? Okay. So I don't know what's going on, Karen. Shakina, if you can go ahead with your comment.
Hi. So I know that when we went to Nicaragua, I had this idea in my head that I was going to be teaching the families that we worked with something. You know, we were building sanitation stations, which, as you mentioned, was extremely physically heavy on the body. But at the more time that we spent there, I realized that they had much more to teach me. And I remember coming back from that trip extremely humbled and really ready to change a lot of things in my life and in my mind and in what I thought, you know, what was important. And all the trips that you have taken, are you still finding that you're coming back learning something new, learning something different?
Definitely. My life changed. It changes all the time because of it. I'm learning. For me, it's a heavy responsibility to take 20-some people abroad, right? And to make sure they get back safe. I learn a lot about teaching. I learn a lot about personalities. I learn a lot about how do we train and prepare a group to go. And every single trip, the group dynamics are different. We learn a lot about rules of a different country, how to honor those rules of a different country, right? How to work with people, and how to do conflict resolution in misunderstanding, and how to navigate airports, right? Europe, and it's always something to learn. I don't ever get tired or weary of it because it's always something different. And I learned more about me and where I am, because while I want to pretend I'm 23 years old again, I know that the body's not 23, and I have to think about how do I prepare as well physically to keep doing this work that I love so much. This is what I would like to do for the rest of my life. And if I could do this and leave GSU, I would. So I'm always learning, trying to figure out how do I do more of it. But most of all, Shakina, I'll say this, most of all, I think what I learned is really I get to witness someone else's journey in their development. And that fills me tremendously to see how our people for the first time who travel abroad and serve, how their lives are transformed after this is probably worth more than anything, and to stay connected to beautiful people all over the world.
Hey, Miss Karen Thompson can't speak, but her question is, and you may have already answered this, the volunteer opportunity in Ghana sounds interesting. Please be sure to send information. So if you have a website or Facebook page or something that people can keep in touch with you, I'll post it.
Definitely. I think that the easiest, probably most effective way is, especially for this group, is through Shakina. And definitely we stay in touch, and she'll know when the announcement. Janine will know as well. If you can friend me on Facebook, feel free to connect, and we'll announce it when we know more. Well, first and foremost is safety. So we have to clear up COVID so we can do this well.
Clerk Yarbrough, there's some questions/comments and
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go right ahead. Like I said, I can't see him, so you go right ahead.
Okay, so I'll just read what
His hand is, he's raising his hand, just
Lipka, okay, what is,
I just had a question too, but I can wait till my point in the line here. I'm not sure that my notation under Q&A was perceived as wanting to speak, and so I just wanted to make sure.
I won't ever do this again.
Okay, so Charlicia, I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. She's written just a comment. I am one of Dr. West's current students in the Community Practice Learning Lab at Governor State University. I've heard some snippets of her story, but never the full story. Now I can see how and why she is so passionate about the work that she does and the students that she teaches. Thank you, Dr. West, for your genuine heart. She pushes us tirelessly and she frustrates us undoubtedly. But each time she pushes and encourages, we keep rising to new heights. That's awesome. Okay, then you have someone named Ladies of Virtue. I'm unable to mute my mic at this time. Hi, Dr. West. Thank you for the work you have done and the influence you've had on so many people to make the world around them a better place. I'd love to hear how we're able to get over survivor's remorse and any advice you would give someone who may suffer from the same guilt or struggle with imposter syndrome.
So probably need to hear a little bit more about imposter syndrome. I know it's a term, but the survivor's remorse is real, right? It's very real, and I think one way we get through it is to be able to have spaces to have a dialogue and conversations with other people who are from the same communities about what we're feeling and experiencing. And if you are from a family, if you're the only person in your family, there's a lot of heaviness with that, right? And trying to help and work with your family members. And that's often why I tell the story and share my family's background. And because we're a loving family, but yet you deeply wish for your family members to have the opportunities that you've had, and sometimes that's not going to be the case, or your community members, right? Because as Byron explained in our commitment, and the other brother, I'm forgetting his name, from Providence St. Mel talked about, when we're from communities, right? I'm just using our community. When we're from there, we're still family, even if one of our family members or our cousin, I'm saying one of our family members could be our neighbors, because we all end up being brothers and sisters and siblings in some kind of way, even if it's a fictive way. If that person goes to jail and you grew up with that person, that's your family member. And when they come out of jail, right, or if they're on drugs, you see that. And so even in doing research for my PhD, I did my research at Cook County Jail. So I was running into people who I grew up with. How do you not feel a sense of compassion for people who are struggling? And to me, the medicine is to, one, remind our children that we are all worthy of joy, of success, and we should celebrate, because we need to see joy. For some reason, we get conditioned to only focus on the pain. But just like pain can be contagious, right? Joy can be contagious. And people need something to hold on to. And I would say if we're using that which we have been so deeply blessed with for good, then it's not about bragging. It's about joy. And it took me a long time to understand the difference between bragging and just celebrating joy and being grateful. And I'm telling you, because I was like, oh, don't celebrate. What do you mean you graduated with a double master's in 5 semesters? Don't celebrate that. Be quiet. Be humble. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm still humble and I'm still happy. I'm happy it's over. I'm happy I got through it. I'm happy that I can use these skills to work with people. And so celebrate. We deserve joy in our lives, and we need to see more joy. We need to celebrate the joy in these communities versus what we see on the news every night. Because here's the deal, that joy, it's some parts in your brain, literally relationships heal the brain. It repairs the brain cells. And guess what? The negative stuff destroy our cells and compromise our immune systems, which makes us more, right, possibly to connect to COVID and get COVID. So healing can help us heal and recover from a COVID or from diabetes or from heart disease. So we need to express this joy that we have. And that's what helps us get over survivors' guilt, because if we can just focus on the joy and the thank you and pull someone up with us, we won't be feeling guilty. Right? So we'll see Shakina, we'll see Janine, and we'll see everybody's pulling and lifting each other up. I have a picture in my background. That's what that picture is doing, is lifting us up. And that, I think that removes the guilt. That's what did it for me. So thank you for asking that question. Sorry if I took too, I went on. I went into teacher's mode.
Okay, Dr. Luke, I think you're up next.
Just had to unmute there. Thank you. Boy, one of the first things I wrote down in my notes were you exude love and grace, Dr. West. That's the biggest compliment I can give you, I think. And I'm thankful that you're with us today, and such an inspiration, and you stimulate such deep thinking. You spoke a moment ago about medicine, self-worth, gratefulness, and joy. And I think there's a medicine for gratitude that permeates Rotary, your profession, social work. Regarding those who need service, we feed them. A number of local organizations, and I'm going to ask just for a reaction at the end of this, and I'll keep it somewhat short, but a number of organizations in Proviso Township talk about giving a hand up instead of a handout. There are people in need that still need a hand. They still need a handout. They still need specific things. I believe that our world may be missing a key ingredient. I jotted this down. In our attempt to rescue people who live in poverty or suffer in any other way, I think the most sustainable rescue is an opportunity to serve. And we can be creating dependency and locking people into that cycle of poverty that people talk so much about by looking at it only as what can we do to help those poor folks? And those poor folks keep asking and asking and asking because they know they have great need. But I think one of the best things we can do for them is to give them opportunities to serve outside of themselves and outside of their community. No matter how impoverished they are, no matter how troubled they are by illness or abuse or whatever the circumstances might be that make them needy, it seems to me that they would be empowered like we are, like you are as a social worker and like we are as Rotarians, if we would give them an opportunity to serve. And everyone has something of value to share with someone else, whether they were recently paroled from prison, which you mentioned. Again, those folks that I mentioned who live in poverty. Shouldn't we use this reality, I think, to facilitate service opportunities for people who are in need, in communities particularly who might be drowning in poverty? So it's just a thought.
Yeah, it's a powerful thought. I would say that my first person who taught me how to serve is my mother. And I saw women take care of each other. I saw families take care of each other. I saw a sense of brotherhood amongst my father and his friends, and they looked out for each other. Families looked out for each other. That was a form of service. They cooked for each other. My neighbors cooked for me. I had 2 meals. I probably didn't need 2 meals, but I had a meal at home when my mother got home, and I had a meal with my great godmother, who Miss Hunter, who lived to be 112 years old. And that sense of community has always modeled service, even if we didn't call it that. I don't see many, and it's probably under the auspices of church often, and we don't often see it that way, but many communities who struggle in poverty serve. They serve day in and day out. They with taking care of their children, others' children, and so the service is happening that way. A lot of, I know, men and women who are coming out. I know that I'm about to call her Dr. Yarbrough, since she's challenging me with AKA.
Oh my goodness.
Look, since we're going this way, Dr. Yarbrough said that she wanted to know about Healing Hurt People. Healing Hurt People and Chicago Cred, these are places in which I consult with. And Healing Hurt People, they both work with gang violence, right, to reduce gun violence. Healing Hurt People specifically is a joint collaboration between the University of Chicago and Cook County Strozier, where they intervene with people who come through Strozier who have been shot. And they walk with them to get their lives back on track, to provide case management, whatever they need, and to be okay. And so that's Healing Hurt People. And my role with them is, again, I'm looking at organizational wellness. I'm deeply concerned about people who talk about service. Administrators, nonprofit organizations say we have to serve, yet the people we want to help heal people, they do not take care of. We have to take care of frontline workers and employees in order for them to help families and individuals. Chicago Cred is ran by Ernie Duncan, and I've worked with them for 3 years. Those are frontline workers. Many of those workers are outreach workers. They have served time in prison or gangs, and they are literally in communities striving to keep peace and support individuals in the midst of gun violence in Chicago. Often when I talk to these men, I've interviewed over 60 of them, and they have said to me nonstop, I want to right my wrong. I know I've harmed my community, but now I'm here to serve my community. And they're doing it, yet we don't hear about those stories enough.
Of course.
Right? We don't hear enough about them.
So tell me this, it just, when I saw this, it reminded me of the Ceasefire Program. And I know that it was out of the University of Chicago, and I worked with them a number of years ago, and it made a difference in a community in which I live, and that's the village of Maywood. It was 1 year, we had 22 murders in that small community of, less than 25,000 people. And I didn't know, I wanted to do something, and what could you do? And so the speaker at the time shared with me the Ceasefire Program and how they used men and women who had been formerly incarcerated, who, just like what you said, who want to provide service and gear young people to another path and use themselves as examples of what not to do. And I just thought that the program was, well done. I thought that, the whole idea of it being an epidemic, and, I guess Dr. Slutkin, yeah. he looked at it as, I think, a health problem versus, violence. And I just thought it was profound. Of course, politics happened, and they didn't get funding and what have you, and any number of things. But, engaged community to get involved, to see what was going on in their own community, and to heal their own community. And I'm sorry we don't have something like that. Is this akin to that?
We do. We do have something. And actually, Gary, Dr. Gary Slotkin, well, first and foremost, violence is a public health issue. And my former deceased husband, Dr. Carl Bell, did extensive work.
That was your husband?
Yes.
He was phenomenal. Oh my goodness, the work that he did.
Exactly.
Jeez. Okay. Go ahead.
And so Bell was definitely a colleague of Gary's, and that work, I used to sit on Ceasefire's board years ago, and Ceasefire is now, if I believe, called Cure Violence.
Yes.
And then you also have another group that grew, and I sit on their board. Like I said, a lot of this is not on my bio probably. I sit on their board is ACLIVIS. It's called ACLIVIS now. ACLIVUS.
And who's the ED there?
I'm going to draw a blank on the name of the ED, but I'll tell you, Dr. Joe Strickland is one of the founders. Joe Strickland, and he worked at the University of Illinois as well. But Joe Strickland, I have his information too. Joseph Strickland is my contact person.
So the work continues.
The work continues. And matter of fact, they got major funding from the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
And at Cure Violence, I'm not sure what they're doing. Yet there's not enough of it. I think that's what you're noticing. There's not. Yes. You know that Chicago Credit has expanded, especially on the west side. They have probably 2 different offices on the west side and 3 different offices in Roseland and Inglewood and in West Garfield.
Well, I just like the way they engaged the community and educated the community, I think Dr. Lipka said something about people, handouts and hand-ups. Well, this was truly a way for people to join hands, identify what the issues were, and how do we address these things. And certainly it was job placement, helping somebody get their driver's license, any number of things to, really just aid people in getting what they needed so they could be successful. And I think that model is just a really good model for communities that are plagued with violence.
And what they're doing now, I know like Chicago Cred, what they've done, and I'm still learning more about ACLIVIS. I'm new to ACLIVIS, but Chicago Cred, what they've managed to do is they have therapists. Right, they're therapists, and then they're family therapists that are not only working with people who have been in gangs or been incarcerated, but now they're working with the entire family.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. Well, are there other questions? Oh, we could go on and on and on, and I didn't even see you have a sip of water. Because I really wanted to hear about how I'm looking at this picture of you, and you look like $1 million, so you look like $1 million, and so I know that you're taking care of yourself. And I'm sorry that we're not going to have the time to talk about that, but I have your information now, so I'm going to look you up and get some information. Maybe we'll have you come back as a special speaker, because I have a number of employees who are looking to live better, look better, eat better.
That would be fun. Self-care and wellness would be fun. That's easy. I can do that in my sleep. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, listen. Oh, we're 1:29. I got 1 minute. So thank you, Soror. Of course you do this work because you are connected to me and all the other women who are out here doing the work, getting it done. Not looking for somebody to pat you on the back, but I'm just really, really excited for you, and who knows what's in your future. But thank you for being with us and sharing with us. But we're going to have you come back. So with that, Dr. Lipa, I know I was talking too much, but anyway, I wanted to hear what I wanted to hear. Okay.
No, you're good. And we're all grateful for our speaker today. I did commit that I would have Shakina talk about an event that's coming up Sunday that she spoke of at the very beginning of this, when I think we had about 10 less people present.
Please
But,
have her do that. Is she still on?
Shakina's there.
Yeah, have her to do that. That's important.
And then
I'm
also,
still here.
okay, go ahead, Shakina.
So at this point, all of our tickets for the in-person discussion panel have sold out, but the option to view it virtually is still there. We will be posting the link information on Rallyhood and sending them out to everyone. So there's still an opportunity to participate virtually with this amazing star-studded event for Judas and the Black Messiah, and listening to Fred Hampton's impact on the community, and listening to his son, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., talk about his father, his life, and everything that it encompasses, and how it connects to Rotary, Maywood, and the Proviso area. So we look forward to everybody joining us. Thank you, Dr. West. I love you. I appreciate you, and I value you so much.
Just a final reminder for members that we'll have our parliamentary procedures training this evening. It should be a really enlightening, I think, fun time for us at 6:30 p.m. There's the pop-up. And Dr. West, really, truly an inspiration. I really appreciate you and your willingness to serve and sharing with us today. Our meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you, guests, for being here.